Hey guys, it's Robin here and welcome to another episode. In this episode, we're going to be looking at the scenario if Harry Kane joins Manchester City and how to prepare your team for that scenario. If Harry Kane joins Manchester City, he's going to be unstoppable in FPL. Starting nailed on as a striker without any rotation fears as he costs 100 million. With the likes of De Bruyne and Foden and Mahrez behind him feeding him, he's going to score a crazy amount of goals, and even 14 million isn't ridiculous amount of cap for an FPL player if he's in Manchester City's striker. What Harry Kane will give you is a Sergio Aguero output, except with the consistency of being nailed on. Towards the end of Sergio Aguero's time, there was lots of rotation with Jesus as Aguero was being injury prone and he wasn't playing as often benched. The main problem with Harry Kane at the moment is we're not sure about the transfer to Manchester City, and we're not sure if he's even going to start the season for Tottenham due to his late finish for England. But let's give a scenario of, let's say Harry Kane is in the team, and for Manchester City, how can you prepare your team to have him in your team but still have some of the key other pieces to not miss out? So one of the main things about this team is there's a lot of premium players, but you don't want to miss out on the star players just because you bring Harry Kane into your team. So to enable that to happen, there's a lot of cheaper players that has to be in the team that you have to rely on. So first, let's look at the goalkeepers. And probably the two goalkeepers that I'm going to start the season with in my draft, even if Harry Kane doesn't move to Manchester City, is the Watford duo, looking at Ben Foster and Daniel Bachmann. I'll talk more about them in my draft team, but looking at Ben Foster's time in the Premier League, he's averaging around 130 points. Even in the season where they got relegated, he got 137 points. So I'm expecting 130 point minimum from Watford's goalkeepers. And at 4 and 4.5, it's the cheapest options you can go in to get a really solid goalkeeping option that you know will play every single week. Now starting in defense. First of all, we have a 4.5 million option in Ben White. The rumors are that he's going to move to Arsenal for a hefty fee of £50 million, which means he's going to be a guaranteed starter. He played a majority of the season at Brighton, missing only a couple of minutes, and was really solid. And at 4.5, it's a way into Arsenal's defense, which I think is going to be much more improved this season. Next up, we've got Michael Keane. Sure, most people prefer Luca Digne, but remember, finances is the most important thing. At 5 million, he gives you the consistency. He outperformed Luca Digne, and he's basically nailed on every single season to be the first defender on the team sheet, because Everton lack quality in centre-back area, and he is the definite number one centre-back for Everton. So he's nailed on, giving a goal threat, sometimes with headers, outscoring Luke Shaw, outscoring Luca Digne last season. Michael Keane at 5 million is a steal, especially with Everton's really good start to the season. I'll move on to the premium defender. No defense in FPL is going to be good unless they have either Trent or Robertson. But as we said, finances is the big problem. So straight away, Andrew Robertson is the choice. At £7 million, he is the man. Over the last 3 years, Andrew Robertson and Trent have exactly the same outputs, and I expect that to be exactly the same going to this season. One thing of Andrew Robertson, he's more consistency and not injury prone. He didn't play for England, where Trent missed the English Euros because of injuries, so there's a concern there. Andrew Robertson will be straight in and won't miss a minute. Very consistent, and with Liverpool's great start, Andrew Robertson is straight into the team. To fit in the team that we're going to show, we need to have a 4 million player in defense. Bamidele, sorry if I pronounced that wrong, is the Norwich centre-back I'm going for. He started the last 8 matches of last season for Norwich, and he recently played 90 minutes in the pre-season. So I have a feeling he might play. Yes, they have a horrible start to the season, but I've got a feeling after the first 4 games, it's inevitable that Grant Hanley's going to get dropped again, and then Andrew might have a chance to perform against the likes of Watford, Everton, Burnley and Brighton. But in reality, we never want to rely on him, and he's always going to be the last pick on the team sheet. And the last defender to round off a very solid choice is Kufal. For West Ham, he played basically every single minute, very nailed on in the right back position with little competition, and his output was tremendous. 9 assists, 9 clean sheets. He was a real threat, and if they're going to play a back 5 where he's a wing back, it's going to increase his output attackingly even more. And at 5 million, he's a steal. And if we look here on the right hand side, he outperformed the likes of Luca Digne and Luke Shaw last season. Everyone was raving about how good Luke Shaw was last year, but yet Kufal and Keane both outperformed them, and you save that 0.5. So this is a budget way into a really solid and consistent defense. Kufal, Robertson, Keane and White are guaranteed nailed down starters every single week, so you have a solid back four and goalkeeper situation to rely on. Moving into the midfield, and this is where it gets a bit tricky. We have to save some money and we have to spend some money. First of all, I'm going to hit with Rafinha. Rafinha at 6.5 million for Leeds is a really good bargain. He performed really well. My only worry with Rafinha is the minutes played last season. He's not as nailed down as some of the other players, but for his output, for his points per minute is insane. That's the level of 8.5 million winger, and he was tremendous last year. On the ball, he's not scared to take anyone on, even in the big games. 6 goals, 10 assists, and I expect him to just improve on that as the season rolls in. Keeping up with the trend of keeping players into your team that you know will play, Souček, one of few players in the league that played every single minute. Thomas Souček was tremendous for West Ham. 10 goals last season, playing every single minute in a West Ham team that really was a dark horse last season. I don't expect him to have the same results this year. 10 goals is probably a bit high from midfield. He dropped down to about 6. And I'm expecting his points for the season to drop more to around 120, which is more expected. But for 6 million, someone that's nailed down, you don't have to worry about injuries or anything in that range. Thomas Souček is a must in this budget-friendly position in midfield. I'm not going to go on too much about the next player, Billy Gilmore, 4.5 million, move from Chelsea to Norwich. And it's rumored that he's going to be nailed down in the midfield of Norwich. Doesn't have much competition, and it comes from a Chelsea team that was really good. So at 4.5, there's other options like Basuma, but I feel like Billy Gilmore is the option to go with. And now we're on to the big two. Yes, you probably guessed it. Mohamed Salah and Bruno Fernandes. 12.5 and 12 million for two midfielders is premium. They are the go-to guys for the start of the season, especially with the fixtures. So take a look at Mohamed Salah. His fixtures are absolutely really good. Besides from the Chelsea game in game week 3, first 6 game weeks are really easy. And the same goes for Bruno Fernandes. Leeds, Southampton, Wolves, Newcastle, West Ham, Aston Villa, and then only Everton and Leicester. Yes, Bruno sometimes disappears against the bigger teams, but against the smaller teams, he finds a way to get an assist or to get a goal, even if it's from the penalty spot. And in these 8 games, he's banked on to get you a good return. So that's a really solid defensive lineup that you know will play, a really solid and exciting midfield lineup that you know will play. The only risk of playtime is maybe Rafinha, but at this moment I think he's pretty nailed on. Souček, Salah and Fernandes, that's premium players that are undroppable. Now we move up to the attack. We already know Harry Kane is up there, but that's the whole theme behind this video. How can you get the premiums of Salah, Fernandes, Robertson, and have Harry Kane in your team? And if Harry Kane moves to Man City, it's a must to have him in your team and basically captain him every single weekend. First up in your attack, we've got Ollie Watkins. He was tremendous last year for Aston Villa, and there's not much competition for Aston Villa besides him as the attackers. They got Benduia, which is another really good player to give him more assists and create for him even more. The only worry I have with Ollie Watkins is if Grealish leaves Aston Villa, it might demoralise the squad a lot, and maybe they will have a really drop off from the standards they had last season. But they have really friendly fixtures to start the season, especially the first 3 games of Watford, Newcastle and Brentford. In those 3 games, you expect him to have a really good high tally. There's 4 games straight after that that's not so easy, and that's when you might look to other options, the likes of Wilson, possibly, and maybe you can find 0.5 to move up to Calvert-Lewin, or Iheanacho for Leicester. Another bench fodder, Keenan Davis. He's just going to sit there and not play. The problem with it is you have now 3 people to sit on the bench. That's why the 11 is now nailed down. There's injury risks with having only 11 players, but Billy Gilmore is guaranteed to give you those 2 points every single game, most games. So if there's an injury, with a high quality and a high price tag of all these players, you can instantly just replace injured players. But everyone in the team nailed on players. And Harry Kane. Crazy returns last year, 23 goals, 14 assists, 242 points, and he's been very consistent as you look through the previous seasons. If in Man City, it's now guaranteed that he's going to get at least 200 points and be the main man in FPL this season. This is Tottenham's fixtures, but he's likely to miss the first start of it. So in a way, this is a team that you can look towards to plan to have, let's say in game week 3 or in game week 4. If Harry Kane's transfer goes through by the end of the transfer window and he's fit and ready to go, you have De Bruyne also ready and fit back from Belgium. There's a way that you need to get Harry Kane from Manchester City into your team, and then you have the likes of Fernandes to replace, to go to Kevin De Bruyne. Because Kevin De Bruyne and Harry Kane will be a deadly duo in any FPL team. But that's it for this week's video. I don't think my team's going to look exactly like this for FPL 1. It's just a way to plan forward and strategize. You want to have a way forward. Because if you sit with no way forward, now Harry Kane starts going to Manchester City and he starts scoring brace, hat-trick, and you sitting there and having to take hits to try and get Harry Kane into your team, it can be a really tough start to the season. So having a way forward to plan for what could be a game changer in FPL is key. But that's it for this week's video. Please drop a like and subscribe to catch more FPL content, and I'll have a new video out in the next couple of days. See you guys.